It's a road less traveled, a footpath through Florida, more than 1,100 miles long, taking the hardiest of hikers up the gut of the state, seeking the challenge that is the Florida Trail.
The trail goes through these spots that are unlike anywhere else in the country, and you're never going to see it unless you're walking through it. I don't explain it to people. It's too hard. They have an idea in their head, and it's like me explaining it in words isn't really, I can't really do it justice. I can't remember when I first heard about the Florida Trail, and I thought the concept of walking across an entire state was like really interesting. And the people that have told me not to do the Florida Trail, in retrospect, I don't think any of them have done the Florida Trail. So it'll weed you out in the same way that every trail does. So, but that's what I had read. Hadn't heard of a lot of people completing it.
The Florida Trail was started 50 years ago, in fact, by a group of volunteers. Painted the first blaze in Ocala National Forest 50 years ago. It wasn't until 1983 that the Florida Trail was actually established by Congress as a National Scenic Trail.
Depending on which route you choose to take, it is around 1,100 miles.
Swamps are kind of our version of mountains, and you have wetlands and swamps and a variety of habitats, but certainly those are the most challenging to get through.
Big Cypress, the section where I was like in the middle of a swamp, and there was just air plants everywhere, and it was just blowing my mind. Like, I didn't know this was a real place. I've never seen anything like this, and there's probably nothing like this anywhere else in the country.
The Black Lagoon is your water source, 0.1 mile north. So there's water in 6 miles.
I think psychologically, I think it was like day 5 was the first time that I ever, in my mind, like, was starting to formulate my, like, final blog entry. Like, here's how I'm going to quit this trail. Like, I never once in my entire life on the AT or the PCT ever even thought about quitting. And on the Florida Trail, I was like, if this trail keeps, if it keeps it up, we're done.
Thirsty Turtle is only a couple days ahead of us. What's today? 25th?
After Okeechobee, I met Cerilia, and I was like, there's other people doing this trail. There's other girls wearing dresses doing this trail. Like, there's other people out here. And then every day we started passing one person and just meeting more people. The trail became a trail, blazes to follow. And I was like, I'm going to finish. I'm going to do this trail.
You played it as our, like, home set, for sure. I hear cars.
The big road.
No. Oh, I just saw a car.
the people in Florida didn't understand or had never heard of the Florida Trail, and they just didn't, they weren't prepared for hikers to be walking in their front yard or like, you know, right by their mailbox. And so like the road walks can actually be harder than the trail in that way.
What's up? Hello. Oh, yeah. What's up, man? I got a bagel if you got nut allergies. No nut.
I'm gonna eat donuts anyway.
The trail changes, not much, but it changes a little bit each year due to reroutes, or they find a better section to move the trail to, or sometimes, unfortunately, the trail gets rerouted because of, you know, the property gets bought, the trail used to come on, or, you know, for some reason that no longer the Florida Trail is allowed to be on that property.
Like on a really good through hiking moment, it's like you are completely within. Like you're not thinking about the fact that like there's a bunch of people in civilization all around you. Like you're just doing your adventure. And when you're on a road walk, it's like you're in reality again. There's a time when, for me, what I do is I'm counting up my miles. So I'm like, okay, I'm at mile marker 300, or okay, I'm at mile marker 400. I've made it 500 miles on this trail out of the 1,100 miles. I've gone 600 miles. And then all of a sudden, somewhere it just flips and you're like, I have 500 miles to go, or only 400 miles to go. And you start counting backwards, like 300 miles left. I have a week left. Like, and you start, you know, figuring it out. Like, if I'm just keeping my mileage the same, I'm only 4 days left. Aurelia and Lint and I have experienced that, or like, we can't explain it. We saw it, and it's a, you know, like a secret club that we're in that we can't explain to anyone else. They won't get it. Like why I like to through hike is because it makes you appreciate everything better.
It's like a terminus for ants.
I think it's really important to keep preserving what Florida still has to offer. The natural pessimistic part of me is always worried about it. Yeah, that's like a part of the reason why I'm out there now. It's like, it's not going to be the same in even probably a year or two. Like, I would like to maintain my hope, but, I mean, I want to be able to see what there is to offer, like, while it's still here.
Both Katie Clan and Greg Stanley actually hit the trail in order to do this story. Katie, you took the video, which was really beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
How involved in the story did you get?
I would say pretty involved. I found someone who is through hiking the trail, which means hiking it from one end to the other kind of continuously. I found her on a Facebook group for Florida Trail hikers and asked her basically if I could follow her and document her experience on the trail. And luckily enough, she said yes and allowed me to kind of tag along for her trip. So.
And you popped in and out there. You didn't go from beginning to end every day. She took, what, 30, 40 days?
Right, yeah. She took 40 days, which is relatively fast for someone who's through hiking a trail. but I started with her in Big Cypress National Preserve on her first day at the southern terminus, and hiked 3 days with her there up to I-75, which was kind of through the swamp area, and then popped back and went back to her, I think on her 25th day or something like that, where I met up with her on the Suwannee section, the Suwannee River section, and Greg popped up for that section as well.
I was going to say, for something that's such a solitary pastime, they were getting to know a lot of people that would kind of take stride with them for a while, and Greg, you popped in and out as well?
Yeah, and it was pretty tough to try to keep up with them. I kept up with them for about 1 day, and I couldn't walk the next 3 days probably afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
They walk very fast.
And that was just me carrying a notepad, and I know Katie was following them for much longer sometimes with the whole full camera gear, and it was pretty amazing.
You know, and that's fine that, you know, you've got company, you've got scenery. What you don't have is like the luxuries of food and things like that. Do you find yourself thinking about eating or drinking because you've got such a long way to go and nothing around you?
Gretchen, who is the thru hiker that we followed, she found herself craving things like Sour Patch Kids, or just kind of small things. There's even one point where she said, you know, through hiking makes you appreciate the little things like sleeping in a bed at night, or the small kind of comfort foods that you like.
I bet it would. And then Greg, you had to put up the print story for the newspaper on that, and so you were able to get a lot of context though about what the trail, where it goes, how the land is preserved, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And we even embedded with some volunteers for a little while too. Not just we followed the people who were hiking it, but then we also with the people, the Florida Trail Association, all these volunteers who maintain it, have to go out there every year and literally beat back the brush with, you know, chainsaws and this overgrown wild that they keep a footpath that you can follow. They paint the blazes that you can see. So we spent a lot of time with them, learning how they do it. We spent a lot of time with the U.S. Forestry Service, the officials that you know, they're in charge of the more behind the books kind of stuff. How are we going to get this trail from point A to point B? You know, how do we eliminate some of these roadwalks, some of these gaps in the middle of the trail? It
was interesting because people have heard about hiking the Appalachian Trail, and this one is not as well known, but it's kind of a challenge for people.
In Florida, as opposed to, you know, along the mountains and on the Appalachian Trail, there are swamps and beaches, and the roads actually present another challenge that I think a lot of hikers might not necessarily consider. It's harder on your legs to walk on roads than on a trail.
And I don't think either Katie or I had heard of the Florida Trail before we started working on the story and talking to them. And that was something that they kind of said was the normal. You know, everyone that they had run into,
I bet that
you know,
is the case.
Even people who live right on it, they hadn't known about the Florida Trail, or that it was, you know, one of 11 of these things, just 11 of these things in the country. So that's kind of part of the fun of this story too, and we hope that it helps shine some light on that and show people, hey, there is this thing that's right in your backyard.